Hi, this is Justin from 1082E, and I'll be doing our state robot explanation. So this was our most successful bot this season. Out of 3 robots, we've had this since January. It's competed in 4 tournaments, and we won 2 tournament champions, got Div finalists and Think at Kalahari, 3 skills champs including state skills and tournament finalists at state. Now let's start with the drive base. So it's a 36 to 48, 450 RPM drive, 3 wheels on each side. We've got the 36 tooth idler here. That just allows us to have a nice cross brace there, a bit of a shorter drive, and got the motors all in a row. Odon wheels here, 2.75 forwards back, 2-inch perpendicular. They're both tension down, mounted on just L channels or 1x1 angles with the rotation sensor on a screw joint using the bronze insert tech, where you connect them across with high strength spacers. Now, this ratio has worked really well for us, and we're gonna keep it for Worlds. It's just a nice balance of speed and torque and whatnot. Now, going back to our clamp, we have 2 medium pistons on and a 3-wide channel here. Got the front standoffs raced across with some plastic that will keep the goal, or it will hit the goal and stop the pistons. And then this piece in the back, sorry, that's the auto clamp. This screw in the back actually tilts the goal, and you can kind of see it's at a nice angle for leverage. Try to get as close to 90 degrees as possible. As shown before, we have auto clamp, and we do the corner, gets the same angle. That's because of the spacing here with the 3-wide. You want this part that pulls the corner. So depending on how wide it is, it'll pull the goal in more or less, and that will control the tilt. So you want that, you can use that to match your corner inside. That's just something you have to tune, I think. 3-wide worked pretty well for us, but it might depend on the height of these bars. So we've got aligners here as well. So it's just one hole over, free spinning screws. This allows the goal to easily align generally to the side, but if it's at an exact corner and you drive into it, it will clamp at the corner, which is fine for us. Now, since these are just one hole over, we are just gonna switch to being 2 less wide on our Worlds bot, and that should work about as well. So you just have to find the right width. Now they do stick out a bit, and that's to stop the goal from ever being able to get stuck on top of these. That happened once in a prog run at home. There is a second bar, and that's so that when you clamp the goal, it can't tilt in more because it hits that bar, and that's to stop the hooks from getting stuck at the top. It just keeps it at that distance. Now, moving on to the intake. So, we've got a 16.5 watt intake, 5.5 pre-roller, 11 watt split intake. We got a 5:2 ratio on that pre-roller, and we got 5 flexos here. We do have an aligner on here, but it is broken. Thank you to Kyle 1082R for that. Pretty shallow intake ramps here mounted on this high strength axle. That keeps them very secure. They haven't really moved up or down. Even with pretty tight ground clearance, we haven't had issues with them catching, which is really nice. Now, we have this one bent plastic piece that just keeps the ring flat as it's intaking, so it can calmly go up to the hook stage. So the hooks catch there. It's just one 600 RPM motor, and it brings it up here. So this top stage, what we found to be pretty important with tuning intake is firstly the height. You want it as high as possible. We found this flex wheel size of the 48 tooth gear with flex wheel around it, custom. You can just cut out the inside of a flex wheel and zip tie it. We found that to work really well with the 12 tooth sprocket. It's just outside, so the ring will always contact it, but it's not like massive. So this gap in the flex wheels, very important. I think having them spaced out as much as possible to where they try and touch the outside of the rings really helps with scoring. At one point we had them really close, and then pretty close enough when we tournament. We ended up cutting this side of the L channel so we could space it out, and that really helped with scoring. Another thing, the height relative to the top of the goal, you want it as high as possible because the ring's just gonna flip like that. So if the goal is really high relative, it can score like this and get stuck or something like that. But if you have it, the hook's pretty high, it'll just score cleanly. And you can see we have 6th ring protectors here. So these are pushed back. The intake won't catch on them as we're trying to score with Lady Brown or just moving around at the end of the match when we have a full goal. We have our mag plates here. Well, not on, but those are our holders. You can see they're screwed in here. They're custom printed by Carson on our team, the GOAT. Now, these worked pretty well. We have a safety screw in here to make sure they don't come out, but they were just a little thick, so we're gonna try and have some thin slide-on license plates for Worlds. Now moving on to our Lady Brown, it's a 1:3 ratio on the 5.5 watts, so that's 66 RPM. We did used to have a 1:5 Lady Brown over here, you can see. It's at the lab right now, but you can see the 1:5 there, and then we also had the China ring pusher tech. So this would push up the ring as the string, as it moves up, the string would get pulled down because it's tied down there. And we also had very flat plastic. This was to keep the ring flat as it went in so that the ring pushers could work really well. This was pretty effective. It worked at Kalahari where we did very well, but we found that we wanted a faster ratio, so we switched to 1:3. And then we also wanted to not have to use the ring pusher tech because that was just there for necessity. It's not really good to have compared to just scoring cleanly without it. So now we have our Lady Brown like this, where the plastic is in L's. That allows us to have 360 Lady Brown. If you didn't notice, it's very short, so we can actually fully rotate. But if you have your plastic like an L, it allows the ring to load really far in the back, and then we go up here and just score. Wait. Yeah. So, the mesh, pretty simple. It's 17 wide right now, so we have to have a bunch of mesh. For our World Spot, we have it at 16 wide, and that's just enough to have the ring and not have a ton of mesh. You just have a bit, so I'd recommend doing 16 wide. You can see the bracing is pretty simple. It's a cut 3 wide with triangle bracing of metal. We used to have plastic, but we found that with the plastic, this would bend a lot more. It was kind of weak. So it's probably fine if you have a strong enough Lady Brown, like one motor or 2 5.5 watts. But when only pushing from one side, a lot of times it would get stuck like this, and this side would be really weak. So just having the metal bracing made that a lot stronger. You can see in the front we have this aligner. It's really useful. It just works like that. Kind of made this aligner obsolete. This is mainly just for pushing up the corner rings now. But yeah, it just allows us to get in place with the wall stick really easily. It's kind of flat, and it pivots down so that we can still use the 360 Lady Brown. So next, let's go to our hang. So it works in tandem with our Lady Brown. It's passively banded up, and the hard stop is this standoff bracing that also hits this plate. We used to have like another standoff here, but those would end up bending. This plate tech has actually been very useful. It hasn't bent at all in 4 tournaments, which is kind of crazy. I honestly thought it would have gotten damaged, but yeah, it just is a really strong stop, and it gets a really consistent hang. So we have these big plastic hooks. The hooks don't go very low, but they sit on the bar well, and these screws help balance. At one point it was just balanced, but the cog of our bot changed over time. So now when we hang, these screws push against the bar. And also, you might notice we have these rollers in the front of our bot that free spin, and that allows us to go into the ladder pretty fast, but because they're free spinning, we're able to get out from, like, if it's up here, it'll roll down and still hang. Now, some teams have big gears on the side or pulleys. That might be better, honestly, because they're kind of just bigger than these rollers. However, it might not be necessary. Like, you don't really need to be able to go into the ladder full speed, and we found that these like look a lot cleaner. And we developed these before a lot of other teams. Like, our M team has big gears on the side, and that helps them hang really well, but we had these a bit earlier on. Let's go to our clamp. So this is our Dinker clamp. So one large piston has pretty good leverage, pushes down, and obviously you'll notice it has a big clamp on the end. This worked pretty well up until state, in which our goal rush got kind of bad. Not exactly sure what changed, but so you see here it comes down and it's able to grab a goal. Oh, don't have air, but yeah, it's able to grab a goal like that for goal rush. And then also we were able to steal a goal out of the corner in Kalahari, and also at state there was a goal that was hard to clamp. Ended up grabbing that with the Dinker clamp. So it has pretty variable uses. You'll notice this string with the limit switch, we didn't have really room, or it wasn't really easy to mount an optical sensor or distance sensor to detect the goal. And also our brain was kind of bad, so in terms of slots, wasn't able to mount that. However, this string pulls down the limit switch. You can hear that click, and that's how we know when we can grab a goal. At Kalahari and at UIL states, we never lost a goal rush, mainly because we were able to pull it back really fast. You'll notice this pulley. That's just so when we have a goal and it's weighed down, we can still move forwards back. Doesn't hurt turning too much, but mainly when you grab a goal, you're just moving back. So that's it. Now, let's just talk about some sensors. So obviously we got the inertial sensor, got the distance sensors on the side. Now, those are for resetting our position with in skills. So when we go in the corner, just drive it. When we go in the corner, drop a goal, and we're able to, especially if we're at a good angle like this, we're able to get our distance from the wall and reset our full position that way. We do not reset the angle though. We just trust the inertial sensor for that. We're hoping to develop this into full Monte Carlo localization for Worlds, which is thing that uses a particle filter and more distance sensors to constantly track instead of just resetting. Now, we also have, as mentioned before, this limit switch. We have our optical here for color sorting, obviously optical in the back for auto clamp. For the Lady Brown, we just use the internal motor encoder. And we found that the motor could reset the position sometimes, so whenever we move the Lady Brown down, you'll see it holds a bit, and that's actively resetting the position. So, like, if we start with it in the complete wrong position, and then we start the program, and obviously the macro's messed up, right? But then we reset it, and now the macro's back to normal. So that will always keep it consistent. And now to talk about, we got the tank back here, pretty low. Battery in here, also pretty low. All right, I think that's about it. Okay, we also have plastic bracing on the side here. We use a lot of plastic in general for the ramps, for this, obviously big aligner. And then also these funnels. So at one point we had like bigger funnels that we had our dry base out an extra hole, But we found that when going into the corner, we needed to be able to intake the ring there, but it was hitting the wall too much, so we could like barely touch the ring. So we cut this, made the funnels a little smaller. They still do a pretty good job of funneling, but now we're able to intake from the corner a lot better. All right, I think that's about it for this spot. Thank you for watching. And follow my Twitch. It'll be in the description, twitch.tv/pizzapower55, obviously, shameless plug. And also subscribe to the 1082E YouTube channel. All right, thank you. See you at Worlds.